Hi everybody, it's Elisa here. So today I'm gonna actually do another interview with one of my previous clients, and in the interview I just plan to ask her about her story so she can inspire you, and we're gonna talk about her recovery, how was it like, and all the amazing progress she has made. So I hope you enjoy. Hi.
Hi,
How are you?
good. It's so nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with me, and maybe you can introduce yourself briefly to the viewers.
Sure. Um, my name is Paji, and I'm 32 years old and currently living in Thailand.
How did your eating disorder start, or when did it start, or?
I think consciously, when I was realizing I had one, is when I was like 13 or 14. And that was like the first time I actively like put my finger into my throat and like threw up. That was the first official time, I guess. But I like after going through recovery, of course, I've noticed already like thinking patterns I had like way earlier when I was like in second grade or like 6 years old only. I would already be body checking and compare myself. Oh, my thighs are so much bigger than hers, and like I would already be concerned about my weight at a very young age. So I think the mental part of the eating disorder has been there very long before that. But the physical act of my eating disorder, which is bulimia, um, showed when I was like 14. So, and I've been battling bulimia for 17 years until I decided to like, I really need to quit and get healthy. And I was just so sick of being sick.
And did you try anything, I don't know, to get better, or?
I did. Like, okay, the reason why I wanted to get better is because of my daughter. So I got pregnant and I was imagining my daughter going through the same, like physically and mentally, the same pain I went through, and it just broke my heart. Like, so when I found out I would get a daughter, I was like, oh, I don't ever want her to feel the way I felt and just go through the, like, have all the self doubt and self hate that I had. So I knew that I wanted to change, and I actually wanted to change when I was pregnant, but it took me quite. I think yeah, it took me like 1.5 years more to actually like really get to the point of okay, I need to recover. Before that, I knew I was purging, and but I didn't really like do like the soul searching, like the reason why did I do it. I just try to control the purging and the binging, but of course to no avail. Like it's much more deeper, the mental aspect of the whole eating disorder, because I've been having it for so many years, and since it was such a young age already. So yeah, it took me 1.5 years to um to to really like okay, I need to get better. I need to see like someone professional, or I need to read about it at least and inform myself like of the reasons and the topic.
And when you were in the bulimia for 17 years, then like were you like in denial about the problem, or you didn't actively seek an answer, or you weren't ready, or why do you think it took so long?
I don't know. I think bulimia, the purging part, was also a way for me to control my emotions and to control the pressure I had on like daily life, like when I was working. And I had phases. I had like really good phases where I wouldn't be purging for like a month or two. I had really like purged up to like 8 times a day, and I don't really remember, but I think it was stress, of course, and sometimes even boredom. You know, I would be waiting for my husband to leave to go out, hang out with his friends, and then go secretly like buy stuff and then have it like on my day, on my night off, so it really depends. But the purging part was a way, now I know that, of course, but that at that time I didn't. But the purging was a way to relieve mental stress and mental pressure I had, or emotional pressure I had, that I didn't realize I had. So, yeah, so when I was in recovery, um, I was really struggling with this part because I needed to find another way to handle my emotions, because that part of the release of the stress and the emotional burden I had fell away. So that was, yeah, quite interesting.
And like all those years, like you also struggled with body image issues. Like this is how it started, right? Like body checking and everything. And if we go a little bit back, like do you know like why did you start to body check in such a like a young age? Or
I was actually quite in denial because I love my mom and we have a really, really good relationship. But if I think about it, like, after recovery, and like in a recovered mindset, I can see that, although my mom doesn't have an eating disorder, she looked at herself in a very critical manner. She would like look at herself in the mirror and punch her belly and punch her her backside, and would be like, oh, I'm like, I have too much fat here and I have too short legs. And she was very, very body conscious, and that of course like, transferred to me. This was like one of the major issues. And another major issue is, like I've said, I am from Thailand, and we're an Asian culture, meaning the average girl is like 150 centimeters tall and weighs like 40 kilos. So, and because, although growing up in Germany, coming to Thailand every year, visiting my family, they would always tell me, oh, you have such a pretty face, but you're too fat. Because I would eat all the German food, like the cheese and like whatnot, And they were like, oh, you should lose weight because, then you have like a prettier face and then you'll be prettier, blah, blah, blah. And I would hear that ever since I can already think and imagine. I would always hear these sentences from my aunties, from my cousins, from the neighbors, Oh, the little like foreigner comes back and now she's gotten so fat. So these two factors, like my mom being very, very self critical about her own body, and also the culture I was exposed to from a very small, from a very young age, Asian culture, um, that made me really, really self-conscious about myself, and starting to have like self-doubt and self-loathing, and not being happy with just the way I am and just the way I look, and constantly battling against my body to always change something. Like, I have, up until like in recovery, I have never had a time in my life where I didn't battle against my own body. I had always tried to change something about myself, whether it's my arms or my belly or my legs. So
I guess like if you grow up with this kind of belief, you never questioned the, the environment or the society or the culture. You just thought like, oh, like I am the wrong one. Like I am the problem. My weight is the problem, not the society or the, yeah.
always, and I would always compare myself to, of course, other girls who are taller, who are skinnier, who are prettier than I am. And of course, I would always lose. Like, I would always look up to these like really like skinny girls who can apparently eat anything and like just lie down and do nothing and be just naturally slim. Because I wouldn't be like one of those girls. I just looked at a cake and directly all the calories would be like transforming into my hips and my thighs. But yeah.
So you said that the shift came from your daughter, right? Like this is where it clicked that actually I don't want this kind of future for her. And you were kind of saw how your mindset like just has to change, and also your behaviors and everything. Can you talk about like how the shift started and what did you do next? And
Yeah, so the first, I didn't even realize that my mindset, like I didn't think that my mindset is like such an important part of the whole recovery thing. I was only at the beginning, I was purely focusing on the physical aspect of purging, you know, like for me, that was like, oh, okay, like such a difficult thing to stop. But I realized that when I was pregnant, that I've been battling bulimia or like having bulimia for like so many years already. That's like almost my more than half of my life, you know, and that scared me. And I was so lucky that I was able to conceive and have like a healthy pregnancy, and I was able to breastfeed my little girl. And all that made me so thankful to my body that something slowly changed. And then, but I still wasn't really able to stop until like one point. Of course, she was growing and she was like 1.5. She would come to the bathroom and like sort of watch me purge, you know. And I think that was like the lowest point of my life where I realized, oh my God, like, what are you doing? You said you wanted to stop, but still you didn't. And then so I started reading about like on blogs on the internet mostly, and on podcasts, listening to podcasts, how to stop the binging, you know. And these girls all talked about self-love and body acceptance, and the first thing they have to accept is the weight gain. Like that was like one of the biggest issues, like one of the biggest topics they were talking about, you know, like accepting the weight gain. And so I was trying to accept the weight gain. So, and I was eating really, really well. I haven't purged for I think 3 months. And then of course, I started gaining weight. I started gaining a lot of weight, and then I had to deal with the mental aspect of like weight gain, because I felt so uncomfortable in my own body. I felt so fat and I just felt so ugly, and everything, my clothes didn't fit anymore and everything was wobbling, and I just didn't recognize myself in the mirror anymore, you know, like. And I was so scared, and I was so mentally, I was just like in such a panic that, oh my God, like nobody's gonna love you, and like look at you, you're like, you've, you've gotten so big in such a short amount of time, you know?
Because your mindset hadn't changed. Like your coping mechanism to deal with the culture and everything was suddenly like you were exposed, like so vulnerable.
Yeah, so I was doing really well with the eating part. Like the eating part, I could really adapt because I'm a girl. I like to eat. Like that's the reason why I I gained a lot of weight, and I actually really enjoyed. Like I think the first 2 or 3 weeks where I freely ate what I wanted when I wanted, I just felt really liberated. I felt so free, and I didn't feel any pressure. I really enjoyed the food I ate, which was like basically the first time in my life, I think, because after every meal I knew anyways I have to go and purge it out. But this time, like, it has to stay in, and it just like it just felt so liberating, like being able to eat anything I wanted without having to purge it, you know. So, but yeah, again, the mindset had to change, and then that was when I started to look for professional help, because I wanted to get healthy as fast as possible, because like I was just so scared by the number of years I've been sick, like for 18, 17 years, you know. That time I realized that I wanted to have professional help, because I wanted to be healthy and get healthy as soon as possible, because the sheer number of years I have been sick has been just so like sickening and like so like shocking to me. So I knew I wanted and I needed professional help. And because that time we were moving from Germany to Thailand, I knew it had to be like some online courses or online coaching or online teaching, because that's the only way I could recover. And also because I know the awareness of these kind of issues here in my country where I currently live. Um, it's just not almost non-existent, you know. So I knew I had to get some from the West to help me, and that's where I stumbled upon you, and I felt like a connection between us because you come from the same background, and I everything every video you posted and every video I watched just really resonated with me. Also, like to follow your intuition. I'm a very like intuitive person, as in like I listen to my stomach, I don't listen to my head. So that's how I found you, and I think the the biggest aha moment I had in change of mindset was when I was reading a book on a chapter about the after the Minnesota starvation experiment, and I can't even remember when anymore. But it's suddenly like I had like this really huge aha moment where I just realized, oh my God, I don't have to fit into the box which society tells me I have to fit. You know, like I'm my own person. I'm an individual. I can weigh as much as I want. I can look the way I want. I don't have to fit into anybody's expectation. And as soon as I took myself out of this equation, the whole pressure of having to weigh a certain weight or having to look a certain way totally fell off. Like I can still remember the feeling and the moment. It was like such a, it was like a Chinese wall in my mind, like crumbled. Really. And I saw the light on the end of the tunnel, you know, like I could understand and see now. And that was the first time I really started to accept myself, and I accepted just the way I look, and every kilo and every gram I gained. And I started to accept myself. I'm not saying like I totally completely loved myself like at that moment, because self-love and like self-discovery is a process. Like it doesn't it's not like from one day to the other, but it's a process. And the more you practice and the more you feed your brain with positivity and like where you just put yourself into this environment. You know, you only listen to body positivity podcast, you only read like body positivity vlogs, and you watch these kind of videos where you surround yourself with this kind of mindset. Like you start believing it too. It's like you brainwash yourself into thinking good things. Like maybe not brainwash, but just like reprogram your mind. Like what I have been thinking and feeling for such a long time.
How would you say is your relationship with food right now?
I would say it's non-existent, as in a positive way, as in I don't think about what I eat because I just eat, you know. And although I'm stressed, or like I'm emotional, I don't let my body pay the price. As in, I stop myself. I'm feeling so full, and like I'm like, oh, you know, like that anymore at all. It's so amazing because like you were always saying, okay, if you're not hungry, you don't think about food, you know. Like even if you think about food, it means like you have like a different kind of hunger. If it's emotional hunger or mental hunger, you know, you should listen to your body. And I could never imagine, like I could never grasp the concept of that, because I have always thought about food. Food has always been like stuck in my brain, and I would always like count calories or think about what I've eaten next. And like I was so consumed in food all the time, and like when I would purge or when I wouldn't purge, and like all the all the time, that the liberty of just like eat whatever you want whenever you want is so liberating. I could never go back to before, really.
And could you have ever imagined that actually allowing all food unconditionally would be the answer to stop the binges and stop the bulimia?
technically I could imagine it because it's like reverse psychology, you know, like I think like if you allow yourself to do that, then you won't have the craving to do it anymore. It's like the same, like the grass is always greener on the other side, you know, like this kind of psychology. But in my head I knew that, but like from my emotional aspect and from a believing aspect, I couldn't believe it until I felt it myself, until I experienced it myself, that I was able to buy like chocolate and chips and have it in my kitchen for like 3 weeks, and I was walking past it every single day, and I was looking at it, and I didn't feel the wanting to eat it at all until the moment I wanted to eat it, and then I had it, and it was like at midnight or whatever, I don't know, but I didn't care because I felt like that I needed it at that time, and I allowed myself to have it, and the chips tasted really good, and I was really enjoying it, and then the craving was gone. Like, yeah, I could never imagine that if I wouldn't have experienced it myself. And also the fact that if you're not hungry, you don't think about food at all. That's like so it's a mind boggling, really. Like I like now I go without food like for I go without thinking about food for almost 6 hours, something like that, and I don't even realize that I don't think about food, because before I would always be thinking about food, think about my next meal and blah 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 blah, calories and carbohydrates and proteins, blah 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 blah, you know. But now not at all. Like food is just not in my mind at all. And I think my relationship with food, I would really consider myself a normal eater now, because I see how other people eat, and I see the way I eat, and I I'm normal. There are days where I eat more, but then there are days where I eat less. So your body totally knows what's it doing. You know, like it regulates itself, and it's such an amazing. Our body is so intelligent.
And speaking about the relationship with food, but what about the relationship with your body and with yourself? Like, how is this right now?
I would also say normal, because even normal people, they don't love themselves like 24/7, and they're like not consumed in self-love like all the time, but but just the way I look at myself and just the way I treat myself has completely changed. It just um, self-love is such an important part of recovery. Like without self-love and without the realization that you are yourself the most important person and nobody can change that, like really nobody can give you all that what you actually need inside besides yourself, is such an important and crucial part of recovery, really. Um, like what I said before, you can't love yourself 24/7, and like you know, there are days where I feel down, and then you feel down, but um, I get like up like pretty easily, because I know, okay, it's only a phase. It's like only a bad day, you know. Like, and again, before I would go to the fridge and eat something and purge and just let it out of my body. But no, I know now that my body is a vessel, and I'm so thankful that although I have been having bulimia for so many years, I'm still having this great and healthy body, you know, like that gave birth to my daughter, and I could breastfeed my daughter, and I'm still healthy. I don't have any health issues at all, although I've been purging for so long, and I'm so grateful, you know. And so, yeah, body image wise, I know that I don't look perfect, but I don't really care because I feel great. I've never felt this comfortable in my own body ever in my life, really. And I don't care if I go shopping in H&M or like wherever, you know, like what size am I don't care, because I just want to wear stuff that makes me feel good and what I think it makes me look good. And yeah, that's and just this whole like mindset and the feeling it gives me is so much more worth than like calorie counting and like weighing myself constantly all the time, you know. So um, I will never ever, I could never ever go back ever.
And also to just have like a little moment, because you started recovery like on your own first, like last year on December, right? And now it's the end of August or like September, you know, beginning September, and you are now recovered. Like, it's amazing.
It's so scary still to say it out loud, like I'm recovered, and to give yourself credit that, oh, you're recovered. But I really do feel like I am recovered, because I can just see the way I eat and the way I think, and just my whole mindset and everything. It just feels like recovered. You know, like I know if I have like a bad day or if I have a bad mindset, I know how to pull myself out, and like the science and everything to how to combat them, you know, and also like the way I eat and the way I treat food and the way I treat myself. I just I just know that I'm recovered, and it's amazing. It is mind-boggling to me that after so many years of having an eating disorder, it only took me like a few months to recover, because I seriously thought I would be in recovery like maybe like 3 years or 4 years, you know, like I was in all the Facebook groups of the girls, you know, like being in recovery for so and so long and never really recovered. So I thought like, okay, you're gonna be in recovery like for 3 years or 4 years, you know, but actually no. Like what you told me is that if you don't limit yourself, like you don't put a timestamp on your recovery and just let it be whatever it takes, then it will be whatever it is. And it's amazing that I have done this great in such a short amount of time, and I'm really grateful.
Why do you think you were able to make such a big change in short amount of time? What do you think helped you to achieve recovery?
I think because I really wanted it. Like I was so sick of being sick, and I felt such a control freak around food and everything revolving around food, and it was such a huge pressure. I was so tired of calorie counting, and I was so tired of my mind being consumed about food. I wanted to think about something else, not always about food. And also, again, like I said, because of my daughter, I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be a good role model for her, because I don't want to be preaching one thing and then like be doing another thing, you know, like I know if I want to be a good role model, I have to live the example I want her to be. So, yeah, these factors you really really have to get over the last burden, you know, like the last very very last doubts and the last fears, the whatever fear it is. Some people have like fear of weight gain and fear of whatever, you know, like whatever keeps you holding back, you have to get over it and just like completely let go. Once you've done that, I think you're ready for recovery. Like how I had nothing to lose, and I was really, really ready. I was so sick of being sick.
Yeah, this really resonates with me, because I feel like I was at the exact same point when I started my recovery, because I even tried to recover before that, but do it on my own way, you know, the eating disorder way, like have still some kind of control. But when I was finally like, I'm so freaking sick of this, like I'm just done, like I will do whatever, like just tell me whatever and I'm gonna do it. Like I'm gonna be the puppet to try everything, you know, what everybody has done and worked for them. Like I don't even care anymore. Of course, I had fears and setbacks, but it's like I feel like you have to get to a point when you are like ready to give up in order to move on. And this is what we both did, I feel like. And maybe one last question. So, like eating disorder affects like almost all parts of our life, right? Like health, I don't know, relationships, career, your family, everything. So Like, how is this recovery positively affecting your life right now? Have you seen other changes happen thanks to the recovery?
Of course, I can see the way I interact with my daughter. I just feel like I I don't have to have a facade. Like I don't have to have like, you know, like a fake mom, but I can just be me and show her my real, like, you know, like, because right now I'm living the way I want her to be, like as an example. And that has been going really well. And also the intuitive eating part, my husband has been practicing as well, because now whenever I'm hungry, I always ask myself, what do I feel like eating? Like I've been doing it for so long already. What do I feel like eating? What do I want to eat? Because I have the liberty of eating anything I want. So okay, what do you feel right now? What sounds good? And my husband has been doing it too. And and now he's like also at the point where the things he doesn't want to eat just because he's hungry, but he's actually like saving his hunger for something he really wants to eat, you know. And it's much more satisfying and much more fulfilling than just eat something you want because of out of hunger. So that has been positively. And of course, I have my head is free and I can think productively. I can work on my businesses, and I can be a mom. I can be a wife. I can be a good friend. I've been talking to my best friends about my mental recovery, and it has affected them as well. You know, like, of course, they're not battling eating disorders, but just a mental change and just like finding path to self-love um, has been really benefiting them as well. Just to reflect upon their own lives, you know, it has made all the difference, really.
Like, it sounds like you are a completely different person than a year ago, but also your life is getting to be like totally different than from a year ago.
Totally. Just because I know now that there's not, like, I don't have to think about food all the time, you know, like that's such, it's actually such a understated statement of think about food all the time, but it's actually very energy and mind consuming that you think about it all the time. You're so obsessed with the weight, obsessed with the calories, obsessed with food, that you can't really be productive in any other way. And also it tears down your complete mood if you don't weigh a certain amount of number you expected, or you ate like one banana too much because it has too much fiber, too much sugar, you know, like, because now can just get over it, and I can actually do and be productive in my life. So of course it made every difference.
Well, I am so happy for you, and the transformation actually, you know, in all areas in your life and in your health you have made. So yeah. Do you have any last words for the viewers who are in recovery, and what would you tell them?
I would tell them, if they are in quasi recovery and they realize that they are in quasi recovery, just to really like push away those last boundaries, push away those last things to try to control everything. You can't control everything, you know. Once you let go of the control and you really become like liberated and free to be a whole nother person, you have nothing to lose, you know, like you've been suffering for so long already. You don't have to suffer anymore, because after what comes after recovery is so much worth the mental effort, the emotional effort, you know, like you can't imagine it now, but when you've reached that point, it will be so much worth it. Just get over the last things that holds you back, you know, which is actually ultimately yourself.
Yeah, and let go.
And let go. Yes, really, really.
So thank you so much for watching this video, and I really hope it was interesting and you found it valuable and you are inspired by her story. And you can share in the comments below your thoughts, and also subscribe to my channel, and also like this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.